Yo, this is Fling with DFS Army, and this is your Week 7 cash lineup review. All right, so we're gonna start with the cash line. This is courtesy of Fantasy Labs. I was able to pull this up, and it looks like the cash line was about 103 points. So a very low scoring week across all contests. The winning Millie Maker was like 183 points. That's the lowest I've ever seen it since like before 2021. And cash games were no different. So really low score to cash this week. And really just because a lot of the chalk failed. You'll see Juju was chalk. He was 58% owned in the massive double up single entry, the $25. So, 58% of the field played Juju, and he got a zero because he got hurt. He ran a few routes and apparently wasn't feeling well or tweaked it again. So they pulled him. And, this is what's going to happen where you're going to see a much lower score when a lot of the chalk fails, as it did. He also wasn't the only guy. Jordan Whittington, he was chalk. We expected him once Cooper Cup was out, once it was announced that he was going to be out, we expected Whittington to get at least 15% ownership at 40 at 800. Thought he'd get a lot of the targets, and was not his day. So, two zeros here. However, this player was still able to hit the cash line because he or she avoided the Jaden Daniels injury, who was the chalk piece as well. And yeah, 5,800. Gino, 17 points. We'll take that. Also played Kyron Williams. So you'll see when we get to my lineup in a second. Chuba Hubbard and Pollard, that was a combination that a lot of people played. Was able to avoid that combo. Get Kyron here, 19 points plus 11 over what Pollard did. And then also got Justin Jefferson. So you really kind of had to play either Justin Jefferson or Malik Neighbors. However, this player chose Justin Jefferson, chose the right one, also paired him with London. So really good from the wide receivers and the running backs. Like that's the kind of floor you need from the quarterback all the way down to from the two wide receivers to the two running backs. And it was able to kind of carry the rest of the lineup through these zeros. Jatavian Sanders, 12 points. You got a punt tight end that got you 12 points. That is also what you want. And this is also why you want to typically pay down a tight end. As opposed to, going up to like a Trey McBride or, Travis Kelsey, like a lot of weeks. These pay down options that can do very well, get you 12 points. That's the difference because a lot of the times the Kelseys, they fail, and that's why you typically want to do pay down at tight end. Same with defense. 3 points from a 2,500 defense, like that's completely fine. You're just trying to avoid the zero. So overall, this was a good cash lineup that was able to hit the cash line. Now, we're going to go over my cash lineup. This is the worst I've ever done in cash and probably the worst I will ever do. And there's a few reasons for that. Like I said, I got the zeros, just like that lineup. I got Jordan Whittington. I got Juju Smith Schuster zeros. And that's really hard to absorb. Now, I did do the pay down. I got Zach Ertz, so he did very well for me. And I did the Brown Z. So a very similar lineup to the one we just saw that hit the cash line. The biggest difference is I chose Jaden Daniels. Now he got hurt. And that's kind of one of the things. It's like, is your process bad or did you just have bad luck? In some ways, I think I just ran bad, just bad luck. Juju and both Jaden Daniels get hurt. Luckily, Jaden Daniels got at least 5 points. Had a 50-yard run to start the game, and then he was pulled like immediately after. So there's nothing you could do about that. Juju was a little risky, but knowing he was going to be chalk, I was fine with it. So in that regard, I was unlucky. However, I would say it was probably kind of a poor decision was I should have just played Justin Jefferson. Uh, Neighbors had dominated in man coverage, so I thought it was a good spot, but I did not know how poor the Giants' offensive line was going to be and not be able to protect Daniel Jones at all. And none of these routes can develop down the field. So I think in that regard, if you follow the Vegas lines, I think Jefferson was the better play for 100 or 1,000 more. And that certainly would have helped me get to the cash line, but there was really no surviving Jaden Daniels injury for my $7,600 quarterback. Um, Hubbard, I think he was fine if I played, like you just saw with that past lineup. If I had played Chuba Hubbard and Kyron Williams, I certainly would have been okay. Um, I went down to Pollard, and my worry with both of these players, and it's definitely something to remember going forward, is they're both what? They're 6K guys. Chuba Hubbard, 6,500, Pollard, 6K. And they were both projected to be in negative game scripts. And that's exactly what happened. They didn't quite get there because at some point or another, a running back in a negative game script playing them consistently, like with Chuba Hubbard, it's eventually going to bite you. And I think that's kind of what happened here. So I think the play was really to get Kyron Williams into the lineup. Um, if you could have got Kyron, you could have got Jefferson, you could have got London, you did quite well. London was the top owned guy on the slate. And, he was really a guy that you just needed to play in your cash lineup because he was projected as the highest owned. And he was much cheaper than both Neighbors and Justin Jefferson, especially Justin Jefferson. So overall, a little bit of bad luck, couple bad decisions, absolutely terrible, unforgettable cash week that I just want to never think about again. So we're just gonna uh, delete this lineup after I record this from my phone, from my computer, and never look at it again. But let's look at the cash sheet. Let's at least see that we were on a lot of the correct plays, and so I like Jaden Daniels. I like Darnold. If I didn't play Daniels, it was going to be Darnold for me. But I just thought the spot was too good for Jaden Daniels. And once some of the 4K value opened up, for me, that was why I went down or I went up from Darnold to Daniels because I did think I would play Darnold earlier in the week. Kyron was the top guy. He was averaging 27 points per game. They were 6.5 points favorites going against the Raiders. Or I'm sorry, you've seen 20 plus opportunities. The Raiders were giving up 27 points per game, and they were 6 point underdogs. So this was a smash spot for Kyron. I really like Kenneth Walker too. The the illness, the questionable tag kind of scared me off him a little bit at 7,300. So, I really went down the Chuba and Tony Pollard, but the right plays were all here. If you had any of these three guys paired with Chuba or Pollard, you were able to cash, but having Chuba and Pollard together just was not a good process for cash this week. Jefferson, I liked him a lot, but I liked Neighbors more just at 1,000 less, and that ended up being a mistake. Drake London was the top play, though, with his price tag in that game environment. He had the perfect rating in the DS, and he was the highest owned, so we want to eat that good chalk. Overall, a lot of these guys were fine. So what we really got or really failed here was the Jordan Whittington and Juju zero. And that's something you have to keep in mind when building your lineups. Having two of these guys in your lineup, probably not a good idea because you're punting twice at wide receiver and you're also looking at a pay down at tight end, which if you played in Joku would definitely the best play, but something to keep in mind going forward. One of these guys, max, I think is the way to do it. But yeah, Higgins, McLaurin, they were certainly fine in cash. And then I like the pay down of the Giants and the Browns D, and ended up doing certainly fine. There was just not a ton of value. So punting at defense and tight end is typically where you want to go most weeks. And, I think it worked fine this week. What killed me, of course, was the injuries and some of the other decisions like the punting at wide receiver. But we made it through it. We don't have to talk about it. it's over. We did the review and forward and onward, and we are going to look to get back on the winning side next week. So, thank you for joining me. Hit that like button while you're here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because we got a lot more content coming your way, including tomorrow, the first look for both DraftKings and FanDuel. We'll see you next week.